Probably one of the most amazing thing about trade blankets is it's hard to find a bad one. You know, try to pick out a bad one. Mm-hmm. You know, it may be subtle, or it may be a pattern that's simple, but they're always beautiful. Now flip it over. Look at that. Ah, isn't that unbelievable color? Look at this one, Lloyd. Yeah. Isn't that a wild color?
Look how that color.
Now look at, flip it around, and look at that double weave.
Oh boy.
Isn't that sensational?
Look how that color is held all these years.
Yeah. And you see it's got wear on it, it's got some stains, it's worn out right in here. Mm-hmm. I like it better that way. It's like Indian baskets, you know. The collectors want the pristine ones that were never used. They're 100 years old and never been used. Pull down another one. That's sort of kind of an eye dazzler
look. Yeah, exactly.
This is one of the classics.
Flip that baby.
It's kind of op art.
So when I started the blanket cylinders, or sometimes referred to as the Navajo blanket cylinders, they were inspired by an exhibition that I saw at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. I had also started collecting Pendleton blankets some years before that. I used to wear them myself a lot. You know, they're very practical to wear because it's so easy to put on and take off and sit on them.
And then they use them these days in Indian gatherings for awards. Mm-hmm. We were at a thing last week when there must have been 6 or 8 blankets given out.
Special awards?
Yeah, they wrap them around your shoulder, you stand up and they make the presentation, put a blanket around you. Mm-hmm. We were married with, we're married in a ceremony where they used Pendleton blankets.
Did you?
I tried to reinforce this cradle to the grave concept of how the blanket was so important to Indian people. Here's a woman here that has an early travois, and yet she's using the trade blanket as a saddle blanket. Little babies wrapped with trade blankets. You've got blankets here in every one of those riders. This is kind of fun too. I've always loved this photo because here they're sitting on trade blankets, they're wrapped in trade blankets, and she's making a Navajo rug. There's 2 looms, and look at the sheep above there. Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's
and
beautiful.
Look at that little baby there. And this, you know, I always am hesitant when I do a lecture and I show this slide because look at the sensitivity in that photo with these people that have lost someone. I mean, here are clearly draped with the blankets. When you think about the thousands and thousands of blankets that were produced, I mean, in any given day, 1,000 blankets could be produced in theory. How these early blankets, how very few of them survived. And certainly amongst Indian people, they were, even though they were highly prized and kept in trunks, they were also used and abused, and ultimately if one were buried in them, we've got the law of diminishing returns working pretty well, so that these early blankets, we can't go out and find another pink one just like that. I mean, I couldn't, if you said, Bob, find me another pink Pendleton blanket like that, with that design, we might find it in 20 years, because in 20 years I haven't found a duplicate of it.
In 1974, I went to the Institute of American Indian Art in Santa Fe and built a glass shop. That also, got me even more interested in Navajo blankets, and I think that influenced my choice of subjects when I started the blanket cylinders. And it was really an excuse to have a motif to work from, the blanket. And the blanket lended itself towards making drawings because they were straight lines like the warp and the weft of a blanket. And so, I loved the Navajo blankets and the Pendleton blankets. And so I started working with Kate Elliott on developing drawings that could be picked up on the steel plate and then blown into a cylinder shape. I made them a cylinder shape because they were sort of a neutral format, so you could really look at the drawings. I worked on the cylinder series for about 2 years, first with Kate and then with Flora Mace doing the drawings. And the drawings became more and more sophisticated technically. We melt these rods and pull them out into threads. That's fairly simple to do. It's the manipulating of the threads that's difficult to do. And first Kate Elliott did it, and then Flora Mace. And Flora got so good at it that there was really no one else that's ever even come close to her technical ability to do the threads. And so we made very complicated drawings about the blankets and also about barbed wire. I liked the juxtaposition between the blankets and the barbed wire. And she would actually make barbed wire out of the threads. And then after 2 years, I felt that I'd taken the series as far as I could. Later, I did a series called the soft cylinders, which were really a lot like baskets. And they had shard drawings. And the shard drawings were made by blowing a bubble, breaking it into shards, and then taking a piece of the glass. And then Flora would work with a torch and a thread and make a design on the shard. So the shard was really the blanket itself. And then the little designs and crosses and different patterns that were taken directly from Navajo blankets and Pendleton blankets. And then you'd lay down the shard on a hot plate, and then the threads would go around it to form the warp and the weft, and then often other patterns as well. And then you gather up, usually on the last gather, you come down on the hot plate because you needed to preheat the glass so that the shard wouldn't break. And sometimes the shard would break. It still would often look good with a broken shard. So you come down, you pick it up, you quickly turn, a lot of activity going on there. It's an exciting moment. Then you try to get back, you try to get in control of the piece again, because now all the glass is lopsided. So you go into the furnace, get it hot, come out, marver it over and over, and then eventually make it into a cylinder. The soft cylinders were not symmetrical. The idea was to go ahead and blow them out and to make them not unlike the way we make a basket, which is to use the heat and the fire and the gravity, let the glass take its own course. Sometimes they would, they're hard to blow because the shard is, and the colors now, it's all on one side, and the heat is attracted to some colors more than others. So you'd often lose a soft cylinder in the process of making it. The bigger they got, of course, the more difficult they were.
Linda hit it well when she matched up one of your cylinders.
Sure.
With the blanket. It's this one right here. I don't know. I think they really hit it on that. That's pretty smashing. Wrong word for glass. If I ever had a dream come true, it would be that a trade blanket would be put on a wall and perceived as, an art object.
Which people didn't do very often, did they?
No. Well, I mean, that's something that we Anglos would take something that's a wearable and put it on a wall as an art object. But this is what I always found fascinating about the trade blankets, is this uniqueness of two blankets in one. Here you have this vibrant patternization side because you have this black background where everything just kind of pops out over it. But then when you turn it over, you have this coloration that you know, all of a sudden the design, which is very specific here, you kind of lose it. Yeah, this is a good way.
So if you can, it's interesting that even when you hold it up like this, it's really still hard to conceive of what's going on.
Exactly.
Whereas if you have two blankets or two photographs, you can, because you have to kind of see the whole thing.
Yeah.
Don't you? Wow.
Let's see.
Now watch this as it flips around.
It softens it.
Yeah. Flip it again. It's a unique piece, isn't it?
Yeah.
This was a unique blanket because it's heavier. It's almost like a rug.
Yeah, well, it makes it look, yeah, like a Navajo blanket, doesn't it?
Exactly. In fact, this inspiration is it's a Navajo blanket design. It's got the Spider Woman, was something that you would see in Navajo blankets, and of course, Spider Woman was the creator of all blankets for the Navajo women. Spider Woman is their inspiration.
That we don't know where this came from, but it's a trade blanket. At first glance, you think it is a Navajo.
It looks like a
Eye
it
dazzler.
definitely does.
But that's an unusual.
It's a very strange weave. It looks like a twill.
Yeah, it is a strange weave. Isn't that something? What a great color, though, huh?
Would this be Pendleton?
We don't know. It's not very typical. Well, I'd sure pick these three out right away. You know. Those three there. This one. That one. I love that pink. You know, I'm a sucker for the green. Like, I love that green and red one there.
Yeah, those colors work well.
The black, gray, red one.
I like this because you're picking a lot of my favorites too.
This one here is
Yeah.